Following a wonderful weekend spent with my wife in Colorado, we prepared to depart Glenwood Springs Municipal Airport, which, according to the AOPA, is the fourth most challenging mountain airport in the United States. And in this video, you'll see a few of the reasons why it's earned that title. As you can see here, it's a beautiful late August day with scattered clouds and bases at about 9,500 feet. So aside from an isolated cell of light precip to the southeast, inclement weather and mountain obscuration aren't going to be much of a concern for our departure today. One of the most fundamental things that makes Glenwood Springs a challenge, especially for arrivals, is the lack of any current weather and wind information like AWOS, and the lack of any forecast weather information, which makes planning a challenge. The closest information comes from a weather station on a 10,000 foot peak, which is about 9 miles to the south. Our plan for this morning was to depart via the same route by which we'd arrived 2 days earlier. There's only one way out to the south, which involves flying southeast towards Carbondale, then entering a pass with 12 to 13,000 foot peaks on both sides. If you're not careful to exit to the west at McClure Pass on the southern end, you'll wind up flying eastward into a box canyon, which, as you'll see in the video, we almost did. Wind and weather permitting, the AFD calls for landing to the northwest on runway 32 and departing runway 14 for noise abatement, but also because runway 14 has a 3% downhill slope. So as we were loading the plane, I estimated the wind to be from the northwest at about 5 knots, so I opted to depart with a tailwind in favor of the downhill slope. With that, I knew I was going to need about 2,600 feet of runway to get off the ground, but it'd be close because the runway is only 3,300 feet long. I also reasoned that the terrain to the southeast, with only a few tall trees, gave us the best opportunity to stay low and build some airspeed if we needed to. The wind turned out to be an 8-knot tailwind, which in our case would add another 200 feet to my takeoff roll. This chart shows the calculated roll of 3,000 feet with no flaps. I used 10 degrees of flaps, which meant that I would now need 2,800 feet. If I had to do it all over again, I would have departed from runway 32 into the wind, even with rising terrain to the north. This was just a little too close in my opinion. So as we began our takeoff roll on runway 14, I applied the 50-70 rule, which meant that if we were not at 60 knots by the runway midpoint, I would immediately abort the takeoff. All right. If we're not at 60 by the midway, I'm going to abort the takeoff. We're 60, that's good. As you can see here, we hit VR exactly 2,800 feet down the runway with only 500 feet remaining. It was way closer than I'll ever push it again. Alright, airspeed's good. Okay, we're climbing a lot faster than I thought we would.
Good.
So that's good.
Just keep climbing.
Okay. Flight director. Engage. It is beautiful here. Okay, that's our pass right over there. Beautiful. of the things that makes this airport so difficult is the winds. Speed and direction can vary widely in a short period of time and within as little as 100 foot of altitude. As we made our way south through the pass, I was seeing 15 to 20 knot variations in my airspeed. It was obviously bumpy. This is the point where I realized that I was about to pass McClure Pass, which was just off the right wing. I immediately began to assess whether I could safely make the right turn and avoid terrain, and determined that I had sufficient time and space and airspeed to do it safely. However, the turn did come as a surprise to my wife. In the background here, you can see the box canyon that we would have flown into. experienced firsthand the combination of high density altitude, rapidly changing winds, and a relatively short runway, as well as some very challenging terrain. And while we found Glenwood Springs to be a great place to visit, I learned some great lessons here that I will certainly use in the future.